Hey guys, Mike here from Messi Entertainment. In this video I'm just showing off the new features in 4.0. So UI Styles 4.0 has been rebuilt from the ground up, mainly because we've had so many feature requests, some feature requests that are still to come, and the old way it was built was just a bit of a messy way. If we was just to add these new features, it was becoming a bit messy, so I've just replanned it and rebuilt it. So it technically it is a completely new program now. It's much better now. Your feedback has been awesome. It's just such a better program now. So I'm going to go through a few things that it does differently now, and a few things we've got rid of, and a few things we've gained. So one of the first things I'm going to show you is runtime support. And what I've got up here is some different layouts, and you can see the buttons, the layouts, the styles, everything is changing, and all it's doing is just reapplying a style. Okay, so you can see up here, whereas before we couldn't create our own categories. We had a drop down here, and it had text, images, buttons, and all our text styles had to go in the text category. Well, now it's not like that. Now we can just create our own. So if we liked it that way, just create your own. Like, so right here we got text, so just put all your text components in here. But you'll see that we can actually put an input field in here if we wanted. So it just allows us to do whatever we want with it now. We're not limited really, you know. So if you see the this, like I said, we're not using it like that. We're using it more of a layout, so you can see that these styles are actually all the same. They just have different rect transforms and different colours on the buttons, allowing us to use it like layouts. So basically you could give your user some buttons and just completely change the theme. Note as well, this runtime, as of 4.0, it's very basic. Although the code's all ready to be working, I just haven't done enough examples yet and done ready-made prefab. So give me a couple more weeks after this release, and I'll get another one in there just full of runtime examples. So you won't actually need to know any of the code. You can just, if you want to drag out the drop down prefab, and you'll be able to select like this. Obviously I'll have styles so that you can completely change the look of this drop down, you know. After all, it is UI styles, so it'd be a bit daft not having that, wouldn't it? So what I'm going to do quickly here is just show you how easy it is to make a new layout. Oh, let's just delete that one. I made that one twice. So you can notice here I'm duplicating stuff. So you can just duplicate and rename them. So I've got a new one here, layout 4, and let's just say that in this layout we want the A button up there. So put the A button there, drop down your A button, and drag in the rect transform, and that'll give it its new position. And then if we run the scene now, we don't have to touch the code. It's just automatically going to find that layout 4. There you go. So, and that's it. So in layout 4, if we wanted that A button to be blue, just set the. I will give all this to runtime as well. Oh, I was playing the scene there. Sorry about that. So A button. Yeah, so it's still going to be blue. That's no worries. So now when we click on 4, it gives us the blue button. So you can see it's very easy now. Most things as well, like let's say so this components, let's say we wanted it red, we can drop that open and just drag in the component to update them. I showed you with the rect transform. Another cool thing, I mean, check out a video that I've got out there called Drag and Drop, UI Styles Drag and Drop, and you'll see everything that you can drag and drop, but I'll give you a little example here. So we've got an input field here. What I'm going to do actually is create a new, actually I've got one here, so let's just delete that. So when you first import the asset, you'll probably only have a few runtime examples, but you can just create a new one. and what that does is basically this file that we create now is the only one we need. We don't need to create files for groups and for each saved thing. That is just it. Note as well, there is just one more you will need for the colour palette, because the colour palette is its own asset now as well. So you can load different ones of those, but you wouldn't probably need to, because this supports categories just like the styles does. So you can just have, like here we got some default Google colours. I mean, you could add some a pastel category. So if we add a new category here, the palette works in a very similar way. So if you have a play about with that, you'll be right at home with it from the last version. If you right click things now, you can, you get a context menu up when you right click things. You can move these left and right. You can even delete them from here. You can delete categories. So the colour palette's pretty cool now as well. When we get, let's say we want to get a colour from here, we can just get the colour palette up, and it actually brings up the colour palette, so we could add a new colour and then select the colour that we just created. If you don't want it to close, you can click the don't close button. Alright, so another thing as well, if we get to the colour palette in this window from a style, you get the colour palette and it links to the colour. So if you hover over there, it'll tell you what you're linked to. So here, red 500. So now if I go and change that red 500 colour, copy it so I can put it back, but you can see now that because we're linked to it, it's just, I've changed the colour on the colour palette and it's changed everywhere. So that's awesome, and it won't let me select another one unless I break the link. So if I want to break the link, then it'll break the link. So drag and drop's pretty cool. So let's show off a few of those features with drag and drop. Drag and drop's got to be my favouriteest thing we've added. So let's say I wanted to create a style with all the values on this input field. So what I could do is just drag the game object up here, and then it'll ask me about the rect transforms. I'm just going to say no. Let's just call it something like username. And you'll see that we've took the values because we dragged it in. We just took the values from over here. Another way you can do it is you can just click a pre-made one, so input field, and that'll give you a new blank one to start an input field. So notice it puts the path in there. So now all UI styles is just all styles are the same pretty much. So if we create a custom, you can see, let's just delete these for now and create the input field. You'll see that this new one, let's call this username, make the input field. So now we've got just an empty style. It's got nothing in it. So we would want to add the input field component, and if we wanted to, we could just drag that here to get its values. We need an image and two text. One would be renamed placeholder. And notice now we get these warnings, and that's saying you've got two of the same components referencing the same path. So that's because we haven't updated the path, yeah. So it knows obviously we can't add a text component to that, so it knows it's an error, because it'll apply these values and then straight away after it'll apply these ones. So something's not right there, right? So let's take this input field. To update this path, we can just grab that and drag it in. Notice that didn't work because we haven't got a find by name. If we look in it did actually log us an error there. So if we drag that in there, you'll see no find by name was found in path. So we need first we haven't got a find by name on the object. So drag that there and it'll put it in there for you. And now when you drag them paths, it'll update it. drag the placeholder there. So if the placeholder was in a path and you wanted to update the path, just drag it in there and it'll update it for you. Save you typing it out. Obviously you can type it if you want to. Yeah, so now let's say this input field had a tick and a cross is usually a good one that we demonstrate. So give that a tick, and then just drag the component into add component here, and then you'll see that we've got the tick. Then drag the path in there, and you'll get the path. Probably going to want to name that tick. So then if you do rename it, re-drag the path in there. If you want the rect transform, drag the rect transform in there. So drag and drop's pretty awesome now. I mean, you can't really speed up your workflow anymore. Right, so there, I mean, that's pretty much showed you most of the new features. What I'll do is I'll show you what don't I need here. Right, so let's go back to our other data file, and what I'm going to do is show you the preferences. So whereas we had settings in here before, we've now got a preference menu. Another thing I'll show you quick as well, if you go to window, you can make it a dockable window or not. So now it's not dockable. So, and that's pretty handy, because if you wanted to create a style for this button, say, if you open it this way, it'll make it not dockable, so that we can drag things in there without it going to the background. You know, if that was dockable and I click this, we lose our window. And you can do that with a colour palette as well. Right, so let's take a look in, yeah, if you go to menu preferences. So this is where settings are kept now. We've got a support button up there if you want to email us, that'll open your default emailer. You got how to find scenes, so scenes in build, that'll be your default. The whole project, so that's search the whole project for scenes, and folder, so you'll define a folder to find. It's the same as before that settings in the older version. How to find styles, we've got all resources active in scenes, so all resources is your default, and that'll find all your prefabs. Let's jump to the bottom quickly. We've got open styles at once, so that means if I've got that one open and then I click another one, it'll close the one that was open and just have the one open at once. And then if we had another component in here, the component is doing the same. So you'll open one component and it'll close the other. So untick them if that's not what you want. Yeah, so now let's take a look at this one, disable find by name warnings. So let's just disable it, and let's just refresh the category by re-clicking it. You can see they've all got errors. Now the reason this is because the find by name already exists in other categories. Yeah, so that background find by name is here. So now what this is because if we were going to go apply to all categories, if we were applying all categories at once, this would be no good being laid out like this, because this category will be overwrit by that one, and then we'll do that one and that one will be overwrit. So because we're using it as layouts rather than categories, we would want to either disable it like I did, or if you click the allow separate categories to contain the same find by name, you can see now that the errors have gone away. But if we duplicated this one, say, give that another kick, I'll get that to automatically do that. But now you can see that these two have the same find by name, so we get the warning because they're in the same category. So, which is probably what you'll want actually, because if you imagine what's going to happen, we're going to find this object and update it, and then when we get down here we're finding the same object and overwriting it, so this one here really is doing nothing because it's just getting overwritten by that one, so it's more than likely an error. But if it's not, for whatever reason, like I say, disable them, and then it'll just disable it. And yeah, I think that's pretty much covered most changes. Yeah, so if you've got any questions, email me, and stay tuned for some more runtime examples. So yeah, cheers for checking out the video, guys.